Indian Constitution and its philosophy. What are the powers of the government? What are the powers of the judiciary? What are the powers of the parliament or the state legislative assembly? From where do we get this understanding? The best thing to do is what? Either quote the constitution or quote the Supreme Court's verdict. That's it. Nothing beyond that. The philosophy of behind having a constitution does it clearly tells what is the purpose first. What is the essence of our constitution? If anybody wants to ask, that is okay. In a nutshell, very quickly tell me what is the essence of Indian constitution means. All I have to tell them is just read the preamble. And how do you ensure that everybody gets the same freedom and the same self-respect? Treat all the communities similarly. Hello everyone. Welcome to the third part of, or rather the third chapter of our NCERT Polity series, and today we'll be dealing with Indian Constitution and its philosophy. Unlike the earlier two parts, I've saw your comments, I've read your comments, many of them, like as usual, when we try to cater to that comments, then everybody will be like, no sir, first method was better, that was much better, this is like a disruption, etc. Well, here, I'm not doing it on purpose. This third chapter has a lot of factual content where I have no other choice other than putting them on print format. That is basically, I need to put it exactly in slide PPT format just so that I can convey the message to you. So without any further delay, getting right into it. Again, this is my Telegram channel. Those of you who have any queries or concerns, you may reach out to me over here. And a small announcement. I also teach public administration. English batch it will be. Hindi and English, 80% English, 20% Hindi. New batch will start from November onwards. Currently a batch is ongoing. All class notes will be available free of cost on the PW app. Alright, just you need to enroll there. Indian Constitution and its philosophy. Let us get right into it. Constitution. So when you hear the word constitution, what is your understanding? Something basic, like a fundamental law of the land as per which the country is run. What are the powers of the government? What are the powers of the judiciary? What are the powers of the parliament or the state legislative assembly? From where do we get this understanding? That we get from the constitution of any nation. So the way the British parliament runs will be totally different from the way the Indian parliament runs. Why? The constitutions are different. You don't call it parliament in USA, you call it the Congress. So the Congress in USA, is it similar to the parliament in India? No. Powers are different, functioning is different. Why? Because US constitution is different from Indian constitution. That is the reason why it is sometimes called the fundamental blueprints. So what is a blueprint? Blueprints actually means it talks about the diagram. Alright, when I say that I need a blueprint of it, it simply means I want to know how the structure is made. What is the plan? What is the diagram? How are we going to make it? As far as constitution is concerned, it is a fundamental blueprint. How the governance structures in the country should be made and what are its powers. It is a supreme law. It is obviously a set of written laws because everything is written down there. Articulates values and principles of the nation. Like if we talk about our nation here, we were under colonial rule. So what are the values and principles that we want to take forward? So if you look at our preamble, you will find justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So those are our values and principles. Societal aspirations. What type of society do we want? Do we want a society filled with inequality or do we want a society of equality? Do we want a society where upper caste will have domination over lower castes or do we want a caste-less society? Rules of governance. Like I told you, how the country should be run. That is clearly given in the constitution. Ensures order and justice. There is clarity. What and all will come under the central government, what and all will come under the state government, what and all will come under the local government, what and all matters will come under the judiciary. All these matters are discussed in detail in the constitution. Taking it further forward, Indian constitution, again, majority of our constitution, if you actually see, finds its basis from the Government of India Act of 19. Moving on. Indian Constitution, Government of India Act of 1935. and ransacked all the major constitutions of the world. It has kept on evolving. Means what? See, basically, if you look at our constitution, most of the articles in it or most of the structure in it, we have actually borrowed it from Government of India Act 1935, which was passed during the British era or when British were ruling us. The remaining part of our constitution, we have actually borrowed many of the provisions from different constitutions of the world. That is what I mean by ransacking it. That is to literally search, find what will suit India, take up only that principle and apply it here. Blindly, we have not cut, copy, pasted. We have literally went through each and every constitution to find out which will work in the Indian context, and on that basis only we have implemented it here. It has kept on evolving. True. That is, with the change in times, with the change in the societal aspirations of the people, we have actually changed our constitution also. This we can clearly see from the fact that we have more than 100 amendments in the constitution. And the principles that we enshrine, or rather that we value, are justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Why do we need a constitution? That is the next part. So I hope till here it is clear. Fundamental law of the land. From where do we get our structure? And then what are the values that we try to uphold? Now, why we need it? Generates a degree of trust and coordination. Because the moment I say it is based on, or it is as per the constitution, there is clarity. Nobody is going to question it any further than that. It is mentioned in the constitution means that is the end of the argument. Even in your interview, if you want to give validity to your point, to your argument, the best thing to do is what? Either quote the constitution or quote the Supreme Court's verdict. That's it. Nothing beyond that. Beyond that, even the UPSC interview board also will have no other choice but other than going to the next question. Delineates ideals and character of society. Correct. Delineation means to clearly demarcate, to clearly differentiate what ideals are we trying to achieve, and then what is the overall character of our society. If you really look at our constitution values diversity. Our constitution wants to protect minorities, linguistic minorities, religious minorities, caste-based minorities, etc. This is in spite of the fact that minorities as a word has not been defined anywhere in the constitution. So our constitution is actually trying to be as inclusive as possible. As inclusive. Establish the rules of governance and serves as the custodians of shared values and principles. Like I told you, how the power is getting divided between legislature, judiciary, and executive. And then, what are the values and principles that we are trying to achieve? Outlines the structure and power dynamics. Again, true. What is the structure of the government? Central level, how it should be. State level, how it should be. Local level, how it should be. What is the tax sharing? Who should be doing the auditing? Etc. etc. Specifies how the government will be constituted. How the government is formed. Direct election. Correct. Whoever gets the majority. Lays down limits on the powers of the government. What the government can do to the maximum. Restrictions are placed. So this restriction, if you really see, what are these restrictions? One is fundamental rights. No government can take away my fundamental right except as per the procedure established by law or as per the provisions mentioned inside the constitution. Arbitrarily, nobody can take away my fundamental rights away. No government in India. State government, central government, or local government. Clear? Taking it further forward. Expresses aspirations of the people. Sets boundaries on governmental powers. And then the collective desires for harmonious society. Collective desires, when you say, yes, in a parliamentary form of government, it is always like we have seen in the earlier chapters, it is a majority rule. Especially in our country. So this majority rule, again, like I told you, it is not about domination. It is about overall what is the collective desire of the people, overall what the society wants, that we are implementing. So say for example, even when we talk about, okay, it is a majority party rule, nobody will be having with what? A problem with Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. Correct? Why will anybody have a problem with that? Or will anybody have a problem with Fasal Bima Yojana? No. Getting the point here. So the collective desires, there are certain desires which can be implemented through the constitution itself, where everything is harmonious. That is, nobody has any issue with it. For that, you need a constitution. So philosophy behind constitution. So let us try to understand this. The philosophy behind having a constitution. First, starting with the purpose of a constitution. What is the purpose? It is a foundational framework of governance, which we already saw. That is basically, it provides a structure. Protects the rights of individuals and minorities. Definitely, we have fundamental rights for it. All the way from Article 13 to 35. Outlines roles of government branches. Each government branch, what is its purpose? Correct? So that is the first purpose. The philosophy of behind having a constitution does, it clearly tells what is the purpose first. Then the next aspect about it is the values and the laws. That is, how are laws and moral values connected? Law is what is written down. The do's and the don'ts. What do you mean by moral value? Moral value is something that you should be having inside. Correct? Your ethics, your conscience, all of that. But this is not about, okay, don't tell lies, not that type of moral values that we are talking about. Here we are looking at largely from a societal perspective. A societal perspective, that is what is acceptable for the Indian society and what is not. Laws that mirrors society's moral values. So whatever laws we make, it should reflect what society's moral values. For example, I don't know how many of you are aware of this. Marital rape is not a punishable offense in our country. Marital rape. That is, if a husband rapes his wife, it is not a punishable offense. Supreme Court didn't allow it. Supreme Court basically said that if marital rape is allowed, it will actually affect the very fabric of the institution. Because marriage, family, etc., it has got a sanctity in our society. So Supreme Court did not allow it. Yes, the female is still free to go and file a complaint. That is there. But not on the grounds of marital rape. That cannot be done. Why? Because that is how we view it. We are a collectivist society. We always worry about char log kya kahenge. What will others think? What will others say? We are always worried about the others. Unlike the Western society. In Western society, it is all about I don't care. Because it is individualistic. Always people will judge you for what you have done. Not what your father did. Or maybe your famous son or famous daughter of somebody else. That doesn't matter at all in the Western society. That is the values that they have there. So their laws are also made in such a fashion. Balance between rights and societal interests. Obviously, if even though I have multiple fundamental rights, doesn't mean that I can exercise my fundamental rights detrimental to the society's interests. Whatever I do, my fundamental rights are ultimately not absolute, they are only qualified. Means fundamental rights can be, reasonable restrictions can be placed on the fundamental rights. Where social order is affected, where public order is affected, or where law and order is affected, there can be reasonable restrictions placed with regard to my fundamental rights. Constitutional and moral values reflect society's core beliefs, acts as a moral compass, ensures justice, equality, freedom. So it is a moral compass basically. How constitutional and moral values, that is, it will basically tell you what are the do's and don'ts that you can do within the Indian society. That is the idea here, the do's and don'ts. Then finally, constitution based on a moral vision is again foundational framework for governance, protects the rights of individuals and minorities, outlines the roles of branches. Same thing. That is ultimately whatever constitution you're based on a moral vision also, the same thing it is. You're ultimately doing it for what? The governance structure. That is whatever structure you're talking about, legislature, executive, judiciary, the different branches of the government, departments of the government, everybody will carry forward the same vision. That is, you're not supposed to discriminate against women and children. You're not supposed to discriminate on the basis of religion and caste. You're supposed to give equal treatment to everybody. You're supposed to give certain amount of reservation to the disadvantaged sections of the society. Well, those are our very same moral values also. One and the same. Got the point here? Taking it further forward. Political philosophy approach to constitution. Constitution rooted in specific moral vision that addresses the nature, scope, and legitimacy of public institutions. Like I told you earlier, the public institutions also are always supposed to remember why they have been created for, what is the purpose that they are trying to achieve. Three components are there to it. Understand the conceptual structure of the constitution. That is the first thing to know. Whichever agency you're talking about in the country, not a single agency in India can function without giving respect to the ideals that are enshrined in our constitution. Correct? Let it be CBI, let it be ED, let it be NIA, let it be state police force, let it be even a village office. Everybody has to abide and work by what? The principles of the constitution. Work out a coherent vision of society and polity. You should have a vision, a long-term perspective. What type of society you want, what type of polity you will implement, all of that. Read Indian Constitution in conjunction with the Constitutional Constituent Assembly debate. What do you mean by that? So this is very, very critical. You really want to understand what is the essence or the reason behind a particular article in our constitution, go back to the assembly debate, constituent assembly debates. So there you will find maybe Jawaharlal Nehru spoke something, B.R. Ambedkar spoke something, or maybe somebody else, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer said something. All these debates and discussions will be there. When you read the background of that debate, discussion, you will understand how this article came about. So together, when you read the constitution and the constituent assembly debates, which took place back in 1949, in the 40s and the 50s, then you will easily understand this is what they meant. This is why they brought this. You will get that holistic picture there. Moving on, relevance of political philosophy approach. Deciphering moral foundations, no doubt about it. You need to find out what are the various moral principles that we are valuing. Then, interpreting the core values. And what are these core values? The values of freedom struggle. Bridging ideals and practical realities. Whatever ideal values we want to achieve. Sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Or even when you're talking about justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. These are the ideals. How to achieve it at the ground level. Constitution as the ultimate arbiter. Means what? Finally, if at all there is a clash between legislature, executive, or judiciary and the executive, whatever be it. Say for example, practical example if I have to give you, the constant conflict that is happening between the governor, the state government and the central government. Between these three triangular love stories going on. So if you really want to know who is right here and who is wrong, the only thing to do is what? Read the constitution. What does the constitution say? Does the constitution give some extra special powers to the governor? Is it anywhere mentioned that the governor can assume powers and do whatever they want, even without the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers? Answer is no. So automatically you get a clarity that the governor is actually overstepping his or her boundaries. Function of a constitution in democratic societies. What is the function there? You're laying down a structure, you're laying down a framework, you're laying down the rules, you're telling about the do's and the don'ts, all of it. Safeguarding power and authority. As much as it places restrictions on the government, as much as it places, it also protects the power and authority. An elected government in India will end up completing five years as long as it has majority. As long as it has the majority support of MPs or MLAs, it will continue for 5 years. Protection of all citizens, especially minorities. Fundamental rights. Guarding broader societal principles. Again, to minimize inequality, ensuring the protection of women, protection of environment, protection of monuments. Framework for coordination and governance between center and state, state and local bodies, center, state and local bodies, all of that. Driving democratic transformation and social justice. Obviously, democratic transformation when you talk about, or social justice when you talk about, we are basically hinting at what? We are hinting at how we can improve the society, how we can make the society a lot more better from yesterday, compared to yesterday, how can we make it better today? Like you're reducing the inequality, income inequality, you're reducing the poverty. That is transformation. You are actually bringing better access. You are bringing more and more people into the banking sector. That is through financial inclusion, by opening up bank accounts. That is justice, economic justice. And just to understand what is the essence of our constitution, if anybody wants to ask, that is okay, in a nutshell, very quickly tell me what is the essence of Indian constitution means. All I have to tell them is just read the preamble. In the preamble, it is clearly mentioned what are our essential ideals, what are our moral values, what are we trying to achieve. We are not a perfect democratic society. We are actually very imperfect. But in that imperfection, what are we trying to do? We are trying to be perfect by working harder and to achieve the ideals which are mentioned in our preamble, that is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. Then justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Take it further forward. Journeys to democratic constitutions, case studies of Nepal, South Africa and Japan. So this is just for your reading. That is what was Nepal initially. Nepal was initially under monarchical rule, that means king's rule. People established democracy in 2006, ending the king's powers. New constitution 2015 reflecting democratic values. All right. And what is the significance of a constitution? It defines a country's political framework and ensure leaders' accountability. South Africa, apartheid era, that is discriminating against those people of color by the white population. Apartheid era with severe discrimination, especially against blacks. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for life in 1964 for opposing apartheid. White government's response to resistance. Repeal of discriminatory laws, lifting bans, and Mandela's release in 1994. Post-apartheid, constitution granted extensive rights. The preamble captures the spirit of transformation. Post-apartheid constitution granted extensive rights. A transition from global condemnation to a democratic model. Constitution bridging a troubled past and hopeful future. Japan, post-World War II scenario and desire for peace. Adoption of the Peace Constitution in 1947. Preamble emphasizing peace and ideals. Article 9 renounces war and force. Constitution making context influences its creators. That is, in Japan's, so this we know, that is the white government finally decided to take away the apartheid era and started giving equal rights to all the people who are settled in South Africa, be it white or be it black. That, okay, we would have heard of it. In Japan's case, why did they decide completely not to go for war anymore? Because of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Because everybody knows, Japan themselves know that they unnecessarily went and poked a giant, that was USA. So Japan finally, from that war, the debacle what they had to suffer under World War II, they basically decided, okay, we are no more going to go for war. We will only go for peace. All right. So this is basically to highlight what is the background and what is it today, how the transition has happened. So as we can clearly see, the background always matters. What type of constitution will be adopted later, and India is no different. Like I told you, our background was what? We were a colony of the British Empire. We have inherited a lot of things from them. We have also learned what not to take from them. Moving on. Empowering provisions in constitutions, a comparative overview. South Africa champions environmental conservation, combats discrimination, and progressively ensure universal healthcare and housing. Indonesia emphasizes the establishment of a national education system and entrusts the government with the welfare of impoverished children. So you look at it, what is their focus on? So South Africa, when it talks about environment and to prevent discrimination, to ensure healthcare, universal healthcare and housing progressively, Indonesia focuses largely on education and welfare of impoverished children, that is, children who are suffering from malnourishment. Clear? Moving on. Political philosophy of our constitution, well, talks about liberalism, being democratic, egalitarian, that is, talking about equality. Secularism. Now, secularism again, what is the meaning of secularism? We'll be seeing it in a while. Then federal. Understand one thing, the word federal simply means sharing of powers, which we have. Sharing of powers is there in our constitution between center, state and local bodies. When I say local bodies, it means panchayats plus municipalities. However, remember one thing, the word federation has never been used in our constitution. India is quasi-federal, means it is like a federation, not a federation. Ultimately, who has the maximum powers in this country? It is always the center. Center has maximum powers. Declare war, declare emergency, center has all those powers. Center can even dismiss a state government. Got the point here? We are open to community values, sensitive to the needs of religious and linguistic minorities and historically disadvantaged groups. Like I told you, we have cultural and educational fundamental rights. We also have rights to support the SC/STs, the OBCs in our country. Let us now look into the substantive achievements of our constitution, starting with individual freedom. Culmination of intellectual and political endeavors. What do you mean by that? Culmination means it is the end of all the political and intellectual endeavors, whatever started from the social reform movement back in the 19th century. That is from Rajaram Mohan Roy onwards. How we brought up one by one different aspects of individual freedom. Abolishing sati, ensuring the education of girl children, increasing the marriageable age, bringing change within the marriage laws whereby which one person can marry only one person, one man can only marry one woman. So such things we brought up one by one, and that is how individual freedom has been ensured in our country. Correct? Free press, obviously, media, which is the fourth pillar of democracy. Freedom of expression, which is mentioned in Article 19 of the Constitution. Everybody is free to express their opinion. Even you can criticize the Supreme Court as long as it is based on objective data and it is constructive criticism, which is not got, where you are not targeting the judge individually. For example, recently the Supreme Court came out with a judgment with regard to what? About dogs in Delhi. Now based on facts again, I can tell again that number of rabies deaths in this last 3 years, it is 0. It is a fact. Then why such a verdict was given? Where to put all the dogs? Where is the space for it in Delhi? Who will fund for it? Who will provide the dogs food? And how will they ensure that the dogs don't start ending up killing each other? Because dogs are very, very territorial. It is not that you can put all the dogs in one single place. You will have to build separate cages for it. Who will fund it? Will it be funded by the Delhi government or will it be funded by the central government? Who will be hired to take after the dogs, look after the dogs? And how will they ensure that rabies doesn't spread from there again? All these answers have been left unsaid by the Supreme Court. So that begs the question, did the Supreme Court think through it? When they gave such a verdict, did they think properly what will be the advantages or disadvantages of it? Doubtful. Opposition to arbitrary arrests. That is, arrests cannot be made simply under anybody's whims and fancies. Arrest has to be made only according to the procedure established by law. Freedom of conscience. I have the complete freedom to either follow any god of my choice, practice, profess any religion of my choice, or if I don't want to follow any god, that freedom too I have. Coming to liberalism. There is Western liberalism, which basically talks about individual rights above social justice. That is, like I told you, in Europe as well as in USA, individual rights matters more than the societal rights or the national rights or whatever you talk about. It is generally the individual Sindabad basically. That is the attitude, individual Sindabad. But when it comes to India, Indian liberalism is always linked to social justice. Say, for example, reservation for SCs and STs. Even though it clearly violates the principle of equality, because you are giving special consideration to a certain section of the population. It violates principle of equality, no doubt about it. But then why are we doing it? Because they have been, ill-treated. Socio-economically, they were ill-treated. They have been kept in the dark over the centuries. So to bring them up, not just education-wise, but also health-wise, income-wise, to bring them up, you have brought this into picture. Then diversity, obviously. We are a very pluralistic society. Equal respect among communities. That is also part of being liberal. That is, you respect not only your religion, your caste or your color, your creed, your sex, whatever. You respect others also. Irrespective of what their color, creed, sex, etc. is. That means you're seeing the individual for that individual only, not their background information. Acknowledgement of community values. That is, what are the various societal values acceptable to the Indian society. So even in our country, many parts are still there which is not at all open to the idea of living together. In the Western society, they don't actually get into marriage until and unless they have lived together. So their living together is a condition, precondition before marriage, because not all living togethers will end up in marriage. Sometimes after their children are born, much later only they will decide, okay, let us marry now. Whereas in India, living together, yes, I agree, it is on the rise, especially in many metro cities, it is on the rise. Even in small towns also it is increasing. But still, people turn their face away from it when the moment living together is mentioned. Prevent systemic dominance by one community. Like I told you, even though we have a parliamentary system which is based on majority rule, etc., it doesn't actually allow one particular religion or community or caste to dominate over the rest. Clear? Right to establish and manage their educational institutions, especially for the minorities. Constitution acknowledges that religion is not a private matter for the individual but has societal implications. Very, very true. Even though when we say yes, you have full freedom, we always have to keep it in mind how any rule or any act which is passed with regard to a religion, what will be the social impact of it. So this is one of the major controversy, or rather this is one of the major reason why implementing uniform civil code won't be easy in our country. Got the point here? Because it is not just a private matter. You have to take the whole society into consideration. You have to really look into, when you implement uniform civil code, how it is going to change the ground level equation. All that you will have to consider. You cannot simply go ahead and implement it. Secularism. So secularism, when you generally say, please understand. Now people generally use this word. Are you secular? Are you secular? It is not secular. I'm not a secular person, trust me. I'm a religiously tolerant person. That's what it is. I'm religiously tolerant. I may not understand what your religion is. I may not even find sense in what your religion is. It's possible, right? I can have a difference of opinion there. I'm entitled to it. But I need not disrespect your faith. I need not disrespect your religious practices. Or, in other words, even though I don't understand what your religious belief is about, I respect it. That is tolerance. Got the point here? I respect it. I'm not going to say my religion is better than yours. That is communal. But just as much as I respect my religion, I will respect your religion, even though I don't understand it. Because you have, just as much as I have the freedom to follow my faith, to have my freedom of conscience, you too have that same freedom. Got the point here? Then what is secularism then? Secularism is all about to what extent politics and religion stay away from each other. That is the proper meaning for it. That is, you're basically trying to identify, is politics supporting religion or politics staying away from religion? When you look into Western secularism, it's a mutual exclusive principle. Means what? Politics in one place, religion in another place. Both don't get mixed there. Inter-community equality was as pivotal as individual equality. All communities will be treated equally. All individuals of different religious faith also will be treated equally. Individual freedom and self-respect linked to the status of their community. So, be it individual freedom and whatever self-respect anybody enjoys, it always depends upon which community they come from. Correct? And how do you ensure that everybody gets the same freedom and the same self-respect? Treat all the communities similarly. Got it? Negative and positive state intervention. Negative and positive state intervention. Negative state intervention means, let us say there is a religious custom which is very degrading, which is very insulting. State can intervene and stop it. Like how British government intervened and abolished sati. Positive state intervention simply means you're intervening for something good, like supporting a religious institution by giving them aid or giving them grant, whatever. Promote freedom, equality, and social justice. Principled distance from religion. Maintain a certain distance. That is, even though you support all religion, don't outrightly try to be religious or be supportive only of any one community. Clear? Taking it further forward, national unity reinforces a common national identity, that we are all part of one community. What is that? We are all Indians. Correct? For that, again, you have fundamental rights, fundamental duties, directive principles of state policy, and every aspect of the constitution. When you eventually read, we all get that identity. What? We are all Indians ultimately. Procedural achievements of the Indian constitution. What are the procedural achievements? Number one is faith in political deliberation. When you say faith in political deliberation, what does it mean? That is, we have complete faith in political debates and discussions. Now, some of you might be wondering, okay, what is the big deal in it? Well, in Afghanistan, when the Taliban took over power, USA ran away, scared, in the night, 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. They all ran into the flight. The remaining soldiers ran into a flight and they all flew away. Taliban suddenly understood that, oh, now no more US forces to fight. We are all alone. So let us form our own government. They decided to form a government. But in the very first meeting, what happened? As the debate started, discussion started, one of them got angry, took out his gun and started shot at the other one. It is very easy to kill. It is very easy to go and hit somebody. The real difficult part is to sit across a room, maybe across a table, and then have discussion, try to understand what the other person is telling, maybe, and then try to even change your viewpoints based on your understanding, and then finally come to a middle ground, some conclusion. Okay, I understand, this was a mistake from my end, I'm sorry. That is political deliberation. Got the point here? That is a huge achievement. Because except for that one emergency period, what was declared in our country, Indian military never took over Indian administration. Indian military has always been under the control of the government. Whereas if you look at our neighboring, Ichgard neighbor of ours, Pakistan, and even another new Ichgard neighbor we have now, that is Bangladesh, that is not the case. There have been instances where military has taken over. Got the point here? That clearly shows what this is one of our significant achievement. Spirit of compromise and accommodation. We are ready to undergo compromises. We are ready to accommodate diverging viewpoints, which is again, if you look at it, in Myanmar, do you find it? In Bangladesh, do you find it? Nepal also we saw very recently only. Hardly it's been 10 years since they also adopted a constitution. Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan. Where is it? So when you just look at our neighboring countries, only then we will understand the value of our constitution. Compared to all of them, we have largely led a peaceful life. Making of Indian constitution. Historical backdrop. What is that? The legacy of our freedom struggle. 1928 Nehru document, that is Motilal Nehru, and the 1931 Karachi session basically talked about universal adult franchise, that is voting rights for everybody who is above 21 back then, freedom, equality, and the minority rights. Learning from colonial structure, limited voting rights and weak legislative body. So we knew why we made this universal adult franchise. Because the colonial government, the British government did not give voting rights to everybody. Number two, British ministers or British governments were not really accountable. So we wanted to make a government which was accountable. We wanted to bring in a system where everybody enjoyed voting rights. Global inspiration, French Revolution, US Bill of Rights, British parliamentary democracy, and Russia's socialist revolution. We have taken key points from all these. Demand for a constituent assembly was first made by Mr. M.N. Roy and later by the Indian National Congress in 1934. Later, the assembly was constituted 93 members from princely states, 292 from 11 governors' provinces, and 4 members from the chief commissioners' provinces. The Constituent Assembly was constituted between these dates, December 1946 and November 1949. And it was finally, the Constitution was adopted on 26 January 1950. Clear, people? The Constitution framing process. First of all, we understood what should be the basic principles that we should fight for. And for framing and for understanding, molding the principles or framing the principles, we constituted a drafting committee whose chairman was Mr. B.R. Ambedkar. 2,000 amendments were there over 114 days. That is, whatever we were framing, each and every time we made changes to it, clearly showing the quality of the debates that used to take place in Constituent Assembly. Challenges faced by the Constituent Assembly was obviously the diversity and geography, partition and communal riots. That was one big headache. Not to forget the fact that 1947-48, we also had a Jammu and Kashmir, the first war with Pakistan over Jammu and Kashmir. And the other socio-economic challenges, say for example, 86% of the country was illiterate at the time of independence. Got the picture here, people? Moving on. Objective resolution. It was first moved by Nehru in the first session of the Constituent Assembly. Institutional foundational commitments, equality, liberty, democracy, sovereignty, and universal identity. These were some of the principles that we wanted to be our foundation. Sovereign status. Sovereign status means what? What do you mean by sovereign? We are not under anybody. We are completely independent. We are not under any international body, nor are we under any country. We are our own country. Formation of the union. That is the formation of the union. When you talk about, there is a difference between the union that is formed in United States. So the United States of America, as the name says, states came together, signed a document, and America was formed. In other words, in America, states can go away. Getting the point here? That is a state of California. Tomorrow they says, okay, I don't want to be part of US anymore. I'm going away. They can do that. It will be impossible, but yeah, they can do it. Legally, they can do it. That is the point here. Whereas in India, let us say I'm from the state of Kerala. Can Kerala tell tomorrow, hello, I don't want to be part of India anymore. I'm going away? No. Not at all possible. Autonomy of territories. Yes. There is some freedom for the territories in our each state or union territory. When you talk about, they do have some amount of freedom. Power source, the constitution, clearly talks about the rights and freedoms through fundamental rights, protection for vulnerable groups, territorial integrity, territory of a state, territory of the country, all of that is clearly mentioned. Global constitution, borrowing from other constitutions of the world. Institutional design of the constitution. Legislature, executive, judiciary. Legislature, when you look at it, at the center you have Rajya Sabha, the Lok Sabha. State legislature, you have legislative assembly. Only in some states you have legislative council, especially for the larger states. Executive consists of president, vice president, council of ministers, prime minister, governors, chief ministers. This is at state level. That is at center. Council of ministers are there for the prime minister, and the chief minister. Judiciary, you have Supreme Court, High Court, District Court, and subordinate courts. Clear, people? This is the overall institutional design of our constitution. Key features of the Indian constitution. It talks about federalism. The conceptual foundation comes from the fact that we have a multi-tiered governance, center, state, local body. It is an asymmetric federalism. Asymmetric. There is no symmetry to it. Center has maximum powers, followed by that state, followed by that panchayat and municipalities. Special status are there for certain subunits. Like for example, how you have Article 371A, which gives certain special rights and privileges for the state of Nagaland. Multilingual federation. Multiple languages are there. All right, official languages. So how many official languages do we have? Just put it up in the comment section. How many official languages do we have? Next point, parliamentary form of government. Elected representatives and are accountable to the parliament. That is parliamentary form of government. When we talk about, the representatives are elected, directly elected by the people. And these elected representatives are accountable to the parliament. There is proper separation of powers between legislature, judiciary, executive. Separation is also there. The same time, overlap is also there. Legislature, executive, judiciary. Got the point here? Then you have fundamental rights, secularism, which we have already discussed. Directive principles of state policy. What is DPSP? They are directives for the government. 1 minute. Many are actually complaining about my handwriting. So here we go. They are directives for the government. The do's and don'ts. What a government should do, ideally. Ideally, how a government should, what and all a government should try to achieve. Universal adult franchise. Voting, already told you. National identity. Fundamental duties. This is for the citizens of the country. Because simply having rights alone is not enough, right? Each one of us have a duty also towards the nation. Moving on. More about universal adult franchise, Indian nationalism link. The idea of nationhood emerged among educated Indian elites, resulting into the demand for democratic self-governance. That is the starting point of it. Educated people were there in the freedom struggle. They wanted a nation, and from there came the idea of what? Self-governance. Central to this vision is universal franchise, because if you're talking about governance, then obviously you should have what? Voting rights. Constitution of India Bill 1895 highlighted citizen rights in national matters. Motilal Nehru report of 1928, voting right for all citizens about 21 years of age irrespective of gender. It's noteworthy that many Western democracies had only recently granted voting rights to women and the working class. That is, the so-called educated, modern Western society, they did not give voting rights to all the citizens of the country immediately, especially to women. Because they actually thought, and they believed also, that women are not capable of voting. Women who are meant to stay at home, they are not supposed to vote. These are matters that only men should decide. But India, as soon as we became independent, we were very clear, we are all going to give what? Vote for the country. Everybody will get a vote. So let me just tell you a small story here. The first election commissioner of India, Sukumar Sen, all right, he should be actually given an award, at least posthumously should be given an award. What is the reason for it? Because the first time when he asked people, that is whoever is there 21 years of age, please give your names. Women never used to give their name. Instead, they used to write wife of, daughter of, mother of. Voters list came. He read it. All asked wife of, daughter of, sister of. He sent it back again, telling that you won't be eligible to vote if you don't give your name. Some people found offense with it. How dare you ask my wife's name? How dare you ask my daughter's name? That is how people looked at it. Because other than that identity, that woman is associated to a man, woman was not allowed. Everybody thought at that point of time, at least many sections of the society thought, woman need not have her own identity. Her identity should come from the male member in her family. Either she should be somebody's wife, somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, somebody's mother. That's it. Beyond that, why should a woman need an individual identity of her own? So Kumar Sen will not have a word of it. He was like nothing doing. Either you give the name or you are not going to get vote. He was adamant. Getting the point here. Now look at our current election commissioner. When we had asked him about the CCTV data, what did he say? That is our sisters, our mothers, our daughter-in-laws, our sister-in-laws, whatever. Their video should be given to the opposition. Is that what the opposition is asking? He's basically trying to talk about right to privacy. Well, right to privacy is valid only in private spaces, not in public space. In public space, when I step out, if a CCTV camera is there, I cannot ask the CCTV cameras basically to remove the footage. You have taken my video, remove the footage. I cannot ask it because it's a public space. Even casting vote is a public area. So you come there to cast your vote means that information should be available in the public domain. Simple. But instead of that, he actually started going all patriarchal, undoing the efforts of Sukumar Sen literally, because he literally wanted women to have their own identity. That is the point here. Getting the picture here. Moving on. Iyer's vision. Shri A.K. Iyer envisioned that this democratic stride would not only bring enlightenment, but also elevate the standard of living and overall well-being of every citizen. A.K. Iyer. Elevate the standard of living and overall well-being of every citizen. All right. Then what and all we have borrowed from which and all constitution? British Constitution, Irish, French, Canadian, United States. Those of you are preparing for UPSC, you have no other go but by heart this. Those of you who are still preparing for any other government exam also, other than UPSC, again no other choice but to by heart. All right. What I would recommend you here will be, because it is obviously a long list, there is plenty of scope for confusion also. Go for audio. Go for audio visual learning. Audio visual learning means now preferably also you will be having a smartphone. In that smartphone there will be a feature to record your voice. So as you read this, record it. Then play it with your headphones. When you are playing it with your headphones, read it, listen to it. Maximum half an hour. You will end up remembering everything. Take it from me. Whenever you have any difficulty in studying anything, straight away go for audio visual learning. Read it out loudly once, record it, and then keep playing it. Even when you are walking around, moving around, night when you're not getting sleep and all, keep playing it. Those subjects, those particular topics which are very difficult for you to remember. Clear? Moving on. Constitutions are not static. They evolve with societal needs and political shifts, reflects new realities, values and challenges. It is so true. Because we have implemented GST now, which is not part of the original constitution, which clearly shows that it is not static. It will keep evolving according to society's demands. Balancing evolution and sanctity, the journey and dynamics of the Indian constitution. Under that, the first point is dual role of the constitution. What do you mean by the dual role here? One, it talks about the values. Second thing, it gives a structure for the governance. Sacred versus ordinary debate. Sacred versus ordinary debate simply means, say for example, you take the US constitution. It is not at all easy to amend it. So you would have wondered, right? Sometimes when you keep hearing there is a school shooting in USA, some madman bought a automatic rifle. Automatic rifle means once you pull the trigger, it'll keep going till the bullets gets over. Just little squeeze of the trigger is enough. And sometimes you wonder, how is it possible that these people are able to buy guns, etc.? That is because it is given in the constitution. In the constitution, it is given in American constitution, an American citizen can buy and own a weapon. That is all that they have mentioned. Even when the people wrote that constitution, they were basically thinking the small pistols which were there, where you had to open it, dig it first, then you need to put a bullet, then you need to put in the gunpowder, then you close it, then you do one bullet will come. Thinking that, they would have wrote it down. The framers also never expected that later the technology will become so advanced to the point where people can literally, load magazines after magazines and unload all the 50 or 60 bullets on a person. So because it only talks about gun there, the point is that if I'm an American citizen, I can buy any type of gun. Any type of gun. Those guns which we have only seen in maybe the Bollywood movies, all those weapons I can easily buy. Even though I am not military, I am nothing, I can easily buy and stock it in my home. No questions asked. My fundamental right. So why is it that the US is not changing the law? Because it is very, very difficult to amend the constitution. And if you try to amend the gun laws in USA, you will never ever win the election. Nobody will support you. Because gun is like a identity of a US citizen. To own a gun means touch that law, you're done. Clear? What about British Constitution? It is very easy to amend it. That is, if Indian Constitution is something where I can take out a book from my pocket and I can give you, here, this is Indian Constitution. Same way, if I ask a British citizen, now give me your Constitution, he'll take me to the British Parliament and he will show from that end of the room to this end. Every judicial pronouncements, every small changes can be easily made to the British Constitution. Judiciaries, it all depends upon how judiciary is going to interpret it. So each time the judiciary makes a change, the Constitution of British also undergoes a change. Whereas in India, it is not as difficult as how it is in USA. Nor as easy. It is a blend of both. Generally, it is called a blend between rigidity and flexibility. Parliament supremacy dilemma. In Britain, Parliament is supreme. Parliament can decide everything. So in general, in a parliamentary form of government, Parliament is supreme. It's natural. Not in our country. In our country, actually, even the Parliament, if you see, Parliament also comes under the Constitution. Parliament also has to work according to what has been prescribed in the Constitution. Parliament cannot do anything more than that. Got the point here? Generally, parliamentary form of government means parliament is supposed to be supreme, but not in our country. In our country, constitution is supreme. Role of the judiciary, basic structure doctrine given in the Keshavananda Bharati case, 1973. So Keshavananda Bharati case, it is a very famous case which talks about basic structure of the constitution. Basic structure, like I told you, just like the word federalism has not been mentioned anywhere in the constitution. Basic structure is a creation of the Indian judiciary, rather the Supreme Court. They created this, which simply means there are certain things in the constitution which cannot be touched, which cannot be amended, which you cannot repeal, bring changes, nothing you can do. You have to leave it as it is. Supreme Court gave this verdict in 1973 through the Keshavananda Bharati case. That is, some things are there in the constitution which you shouldn't touch. Now, what are exactly those things? Has Supreme Court given a list of it? No. Supreme Court has not clearly defined what will come under basic structure. They have just told that you can alter, you can amend any part of the constitution as long as it does not alter the basic structure. What is the basic structure? What and all will come under it? That Supreme Court has not defined. Getting the picture here? This was further strengthened in the Minerva Mills case of 1980. That is, judicial review. Judicial review is part of the basic structure of the constitution. Judicial review simply means anything done by any law passed by the parliament, like the electoral bond scheme. Judiciary can check whether this particular scheme, electoral bond scheme, is violative of the principles of the constitution. Supreme Court found that it was violating. So they struck it down. They said, no, we cannot allow this scheme. It violates the principles of the constitution. The scheme ended. Got the point here? Amendment. Amendment of a constitution, when we talk about constitutional amendment, when we talk about it, generally talks about amendment that comes under Article 368. Under Article 360, there are only two types of amendments. Amendment by special majority, and then amendment by special majority with ratification by at least half of the state legislatures. That means wherever I am going to bring a change to a law, maybe let us say which is where only central government is involved, then I need special majority for that. All right. Whenever we are talking about amendment to the constitution, where not only center but states' powers are also going to be involved, means I need special majority with ratification by half of the state legislature. That is, special majority in parliament, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha separately, and then ratification by half of the state legislatures. Clear, people? Then comes ordinary laws, which is done through simple majority, Article 2 and 3. That is, there are simple amendments are also there, where you need not go for special majority. Simple majority is enough. Simple majority simply means more than 50% of the people supporting it. Supporting whatever changes you want. That is what? More than majority. Special majority, when you say, it is 2/3 of the members present and voting. That is not the total membership. How many are present that day? In that, 2/3 should support it and vote also for it. So minimum 2/3 of the total strength of the house should be present that day, plus they should take part in the voting. Minimum that many numbers you should get. Then only that law or that amendment will get passed. More about Article 2 and 3. The Parliament can admit new territories. Into the Union or establish new states. Parliament can form a new state by separating territory from any state or by uniting two or more states. Increase the area of state, diminish the area of state, change the boundaries of any state, however, alter the name of any state. However, before making any such changes, President must refer the bill to the state legislatures concerned for their opinion, but the Parliament is not bound to accept or act upon this opinion. Means what? That is, Parliament can destroy a state if they want to. Case in point being, let me give you a hypothetical example here. Now I am from the state of Kerala. Tomorrow Parliament decides, let us destroy the state of Kerala and Tamil Nadu and club them together and give them a new name. Can the Parliament do that? Yes. Is a special majority required? No. Simple majority is enough. But here a sentence is the president should take the opinion of the states concerned before doing any such thing. Yeah, president should take the opinion. But should the parliament listen to that opinion? No. This is also the reason why it is often called India is an indestructible union of destructible states. That is, any state can be destroyed, its boundary can be altered, its area can be increased or decreased, its name can be changed. All of this can be done by the parliament with or without the concerned state's permission or their opinion, whatever. Clear, people? Again, a simple graph to understand how many amendments have been, like amendments when were at its peak. As you can clearly see, amendments reached its peak during the 70s and the 80s, especially the Indira era. Then it started toning down. Years taken for every 10 amendments. So how many years it took? Every 10 amendments. First 10 amendments, it took around more than 11 years. The next 10 amendments took just about 5 years. Next 10 took about 7 years, like that. The last 10 amendments took about, again, more than 10 years. Clear? Review of constitutional amendment in India. There are some amendments which are just purely technical or administrative, just like, for example, increasing the retirement age of the High Court judges, raising the salaries of the judges, extension of reserved posts. Amendments due to differing interpretations. Fundamental rights, right to private property and parliament's amending power. Different interpretations means each and every time how the interpretation has changed. For example, right to private property was actually a fundamental right initially. Later it was removed. Today it is only a legal right. Today it is only a legal right. It's a constitutional right. That's it. Constitutional right or legal right, one and the same. Not a fundamental right anymore. That is, if the state government wants to take away my property, they can take away my property. I cannot go to the High Court or to the Supreme Court telling them, see, my right to private property is being taken away by the state government. No, I cannot do that. I cannot do that. Got the point here? There's a totally different story that the state government also cannot take away my property that easily. They'll have to give me the compensation. All of that is there. But that is, it doesn't have that same level of sanctity what maybe a right to freedom of speech and expression has or right to life has. Got the point here? Moving on. Some of these amendments have been very, very controversial, like 42nd Amendment was the most controversial amendment, and many of the defects of the 42nd Amendment were rectified in the 44th Amendment. 42nd Amendment was passed again by the Indira Gandhi government. 44th by the Morarji Desai government. Amendments through political consensus. Amendments through political consensus simply means almost all the political parties agree to it. What are some of the amendments like that? Anti-defection law through the 52nd Amendment 1985. Anti-defection law, one simple sentence I will tell you. Aya Ram Gaya Ram. That is, there was a MP who actually changed his political party in a single day 3 times. Morning he was with one party, afternoon he changed again, evening he changed again. To stop MPs and MLAs jumping from party to party because they will get power, they brought this law. Lowering the voting age from 21 to 18. Local self-government, that is panchayats and municipalities, 73rd, 74th Amendment. Post 1992-93 consensus on reservation. Amendments like the 77th Amendment, 81st and 82nd Amendment. That is the 50% reservation policy. All right. Moving on. So once again, basic structure. The Keshavananda Bharati case told cannot amend the constitution that violates its basic structure. Living constitution that is evolving through judicial interpretation, which is very, very true. Our constitution, if you actually see with the judicial interpretation only, the evolution is going on changing. Say, for example, very recent edition under Article 21, the Supreme Court added right to mental health also into the meaning of or into the substance of Article 21. Article 21 talks about right to life. From our earlier chapter, I told you right to clean air and drinking water was added into it in the 80s. Correct. Clean air and water. Right to privacy was added into it by the Puttaswamy judgment. Right to mental health has just been added into it in the last week. The last week only it has also been added, which is very, very important. Because right to mental, now it is my fundamental right. I can actually file a case against my company, if I say that these people are giving me mental torture, they are not catering, they are not understanding my mental health is getting deteriorated. I can do that now. Both rigidity and flexibility, discussed already. The Indra Sani case, reservation should not exceed 50%, introduced the creamy layer concept. Creamy layer concept, cream. On any cake, you will find the cream at the top. Correct? Cream you will find at the top. So when we are giving reservation to OBCs, if their income is very high, they own lot of properties, in that case, they will not get the reservation. So creamy layer people are those people who are already well off. Economically, they are all already well off. So just because they belong to the OBC, they won't get the benefit of reservation. They'll be treated as general category only. So if you say that you belong to OBC creamy layer, what does it mean? It simply means you belong to the general category now. That's what it means. You won't get any reservation benefits. You will be treated like general category. Clear? The same discussion is now ongoing with regard to introducing this creamy layer concept into SC/ST communities, because it will create a lot of political turmoil in the country. States are actually, literally weighing all the options here. Ideally, you're supposed to be doing it just so that the communities which have not got the benefits of reservation, they get it, and the communities which have been getting the benefit of reservation, they are excluded. What are the criticisms of our constitution? Unwieldiness, which means it's too big and bulky. That is why it is big and bulky is even how the agency should function. Finance Commission, Comptroller Auditor General, National Commission on SC/ST, GST, all these are getting added into our constitution. So automatically it will become a bulky document. In other countries, as far as agencies functioning are concerned, that is a matter, separate matter it is. It is not included in the constitution. Whereas in our constitution, we have kept it as detailed and elaborate as possible. They say it is unrepresentative and it has caused alienation. Not true again. We have tried to keep it as representative and as Indian as possible. Even though we have borrowed many of the components from other parts of the world or other world constitution, doesn't mean that our constitution is not, good enough. Like I told you, you look at the neighbors around you. You look at the neighbors around you, around India, and then you look at India. I forgot to add into that is Sri Lanka. So you start from the bottom. Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Bangladesh, Nepal, Afghanistan, Pakistan, even Maldives. You will find a lot of political instability that has happened in these countries. India has survived. Very recently, we celebrated our independence also. Correct? 78 years. Except that emergency time period, we have had proper government every time. Elected governments. It was not that there was a major turmoil here and then what happened? People started moving from this country. They went and took refuge in Bangladesh or they went and took refuge in Pakistan. That has never happened. As far as people who blame our country, only one thing to answer. Yes, sitting in India, we may feel, oh, India is such a bad country. But for our neighbors who are out there, if they have any trouble, they know which country to go to. Which country they have to go to if they need to survive. And that is India. That is the beauty. Even though we find a lot of trouble with it, there are our neighbors actually find everything good with it. Clear, people? So with that, we come to an end of our discussion here. All right, people. So let's call it a day. Let me know what you thought about this style also. Because again, like I told you, very, very static topics, a lot of things you need to remember here. That is the reason why I did not go for the usual flowchart or even reading it out, because this is what it is. This chapter demands it. All right. So let me know in the comment section what you thought. Have a fantastic day. Take care.